Have you ever felt like life just keeps hitting you, over and over again, for no reason at all? Like you're doing everything right, but everything is going wrong. If so, you're not alone. Today, we're diving into one of the most powerful and relatable stories ever told, the story of a man named Job. It's a tale of incredible faith, unimaginable suffering, and a profound encounter with the divine that asks the timeless question, why do good people suffer? Let's set the scene. In the land of Uz, there lived a man named Job. He wasn't just a good guy. The Bible describes him as blameless and upright, a man who feared God and shunned evil. He was incredibly blessed. Imagine having a huge, loving family, 7 sons and 3 daughters, and being one of the wealthiest people in the entire region. He had thousands of sheep, camels, oxen, and donkeys. Life was good. Job was grateful, and he regularly prayed for his family, wanting to make sure they stayed on the right path. He was the picture of success and righteousness. But then, in a dramatic turn of events, Job's perfect world comes crashing down. This is where the story takes a dark and painful twist. In a single day, a series of messengers bring him devastating news. First, his oxen and donkeys are stolen, and his servants are killed. Then, his sheep and more servants are struck by what's described as the fire of God. After that, his camels are carried off in a raid, and even more of his staff are lost. But the final blow is the most gut-wrenching of all. A mighty wind collapses the house where his 10 children were feasting, and they are all gone. Can you even imagine that level of loss? In one day, Job loses his wealth, his livelihood, and every single one of his children. His entire world is obliterated. Yet, in this moment of unimaginable grief, Job's reaction is astounding. He tears his robe and shaves his head, traditional signs of mourning, but then he falls to the ground and worships. He says, "The Lord gave and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised." He doesn't curse God. He doesn't blame him. His faith, at this point, remains unshaken. But the test isn't over. Next, Job is afflicted with a terrible physical ailment. He's covered in painful sores from the soles of his feet to the crown of his head. He's in constant agony, sitting among the ashes, scraping his sores with a piece of broken pottery. The suffering is so intense that even his own wife tells him to just curse God and die. But Job refuses, telling her she speaks like a foolish woman. He asks, "Shall we accept good from God, and not trouble?" This is when his 3 friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, arrive. When they see him, he's so disfigured they can barely recognize him. For 7 days and 7 nights, they sit with him in complete silence, simply sharing in his grief. But once they start talking, things get complicated. His friends are convinced that Job must have done something terribly wrong to deserve this kind of punishment. They operate on a simple formula: God is just, so if you're suffering, you must have sinned. They take turns lecturing him, urging him to confess his hidden wickedness so that God will restore him. But Job knows he's innocent. He hasn't committed some great evil to warrant this. This is where the story gets so raw and human. Job doesn't just passively accept his fate. He cries out in anguish. He questions God. He argues, he laments, and he demands an explanation. He says things like, "Why did I not perish at birth?" He wants to take God to court to plead his case. He's not abandoning his faith, but he is desperately, honestly, and painfully wrestling with God. He maintains his integrity, refusing to falsely confess to sins he didn't commit, even if it might bring him relief. This raw, honest questioning goes on for chapter after chapter. Job's friends offer simplistic answers, but Job rejects them because they don't match his reality. He knows life is more complex than a simple cause and effect system of reward and punishment. He's holding onto his faith, but it's a faith that is being tested and stretched to its absolute limit. Finally, after Job and his friends have exhausted all their arguments, God himself speaks. But he doesn't answer Job's why question directly. He doesn't give a neat, tidy explanation for the suffering. Instead, God answers out of a whirlwind, and he starts asking Job questions. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Have you ever given orders to the morning, or shown the dawn its place? Do you know the laws of the heavens? God takes Job on a virtual tour of the cosmos, showing him the vastness, complexity, and sheer power of creation. He talks about the stars, the oceans, the weather, and wild animals like the mountain goat and the mighty Leviathan. The point isn't to belittle Job, but to expand his perspective. God is essentially showing Job that the universe is infinitely more complex than he can possibly comprehend. Job's suffering, as immense as it is part of a much larger, divine tapestry that he can't see in its entirety. Faced with this incredible display of God's wisdom and power, Job is humbled. He realizes his own limitations. He says, "Surely I spoke of things I did not understand, things too wonderful for me to know." He doesn't get the answer to why he suffered, but he gets something far more important, a direct, personal encounter with God. And in that presence, his questions and his need for an explanation simply melt away. He finds peace not in understanding his circumstances, but in trusting the character of the one who is in control of all circumstances. And what happens in the end? The story concludes with a powerful restoration. God rebukes Job's friends for not speaking truthfully about him, as Job had. Then, God restores Job's fortunes. In fact, he gives him double what he had before. He gets new flocks, new wealth, and he's blessed with another 7 sons and 3 daughters. His daughters were said to be the most beautiful in all the land. Job lives for another 140 years, long enough to see his children and his children's children to the 4th generation. He lives a long, full life and dies old. So what's the takeaway from this epic story? It teaches us that faith isn't about having all the answers. It's about trusting God even when nothing makes sense. It validates our honest questions and our cries of pain. And it reminds us that even in our darkest moments, God is present, powerful, and worthy of our trust, holding a perspective far greater than our own. The story of Job gives us permission to wrestle, to question, and ultimately, to find our rest in the mystery and majesty of God. Thanks so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into timeless stories. See you next time.